We do have Matt Zimmerman joining us here on halftime as we revisit last night's victory over UConn and take a look ahead to tomorrow's game against Oklahoma State for Muss's squad. Zim, appreciate you jumping on today, man. How are you?
Hey, doing well, Phil. Appreciate you. And Matt, hope y'all are doing good.
Good, my friend.
If I was recorded back in any of my days of coaching, then I would probably not be talking to you on the phone right now.
That's true. That's true.
No, I was pretty good, but I love listening to that stuff, man. That is great. Coaches are awesome people. They're fun to listen to. They want to win. They're doing everything they can to pull the right strings. Love it. I'm sitting here with my man Dan from the ticket office, and we're talking about the great crowd and the atmosphere that he helped and the Razorbacks had yesterday in Bud Walton, and we're thinking about all them good times from last night.
That was such an exciting day yesterday, and I feel like last night's win over UConn, and it's a day later, so I think it's difficult to really know where that will sit as far as historical purposes go. And you and I argued about it a little bit last night, and I think you do have a point about a win going to the Final Four would be bigger than any win during the regular season. But I think if you look at regular season wins between the two basketball programs, I just have a feeling like, how you hear how many people were there at the Pine Bluff Convention Center to watch Arkansas beat Michael Jordan's North Carolina Tar Heels. There might have been like 8,000 there, but 200,000 people say they were there. I think last night is like the same thing, and a game that will be talked about, years into the future as remember when.
Yeah, oh yeah, there was going to be, obviously it was smaller. There would have been a huge crowd if it hadn't obviously been the virus, but there was still a good crowd, and it was a fun atmosphere. And, it was just one of those games that can help propel this program to even greater heights. It's a program moving in the right direction. They've won more games each of his 3 years. Now he's in his fourth year. He's poised to try to compete for a national championship, to go to the Final Four, to go to an Elite Eight. That's what it's poised for. And you beat a UConn. Not many people can say they've beaten UConn since Gino Auriemma has been there. And to get that win is a huge, huge thing for the Razorbacks program. And definitely, they did beat number one Texas one year, but it is the best regular season win in Razorback women's basketball history.
So here are the teams that have beaten UConn in the last 10 seasons. South Carolina, Oregon, Louisville, Mississippi State, St. John's. St. John's was unranked. That was probably the biggest upset in UConn history. Baylor's beat them 3 times, Stanford twice, and Notre Dame 8 times. Arkansas joins that list. So that's pretty impressive. Let's switch the conversation, Z, over to tomorrow's game, Oklahoma State hosting the Razorbacks. And what do you know about Oklahoma State outside of the obvious fact that Cade Cunningham is one of the most exciting players in the nation? But if he's not there, like who else do we watch out for the Cowboys?
Well, the good thing if he plays, obviously you want to play against the best, and you hope that Cunningham is healthy enough to be able to play, because if you beat Oklahoma State, you want to say, well, you beat them with him. If they don't have him, they still got a pretty good basketball team, but they have not been able to win a lot of games without him. They did beat Iowa State, who's at the bottom of the conference, without him the other night. But other than that, they got hammered pretty good in the second half to Baylor, who's really good. And they need him to beat the Razorbacks. Without him, it'll be very difficult for them, without hardly any fans there, to beat the Razorbacks. Rondell Walker's a good player. He went to a good high school that produces a lot of good players called Putnam City West, which is in Midwest City, Oklahoma. He's a 6'4", 6'5" guard, gets about 10 a game. He shoots more when Cunningham's not there. And Isaac Likely averages 12 and 7 for him, 6'5", physical kid that really helps them. Those guys seem to get a lot more shots up and do a lot more. But Cunningham is not a volume shooter. He is a distributor. He's a smooth, fluid player. He gets his teammates involved. He's not going to gun a whole lot of shots. He's taken their most shots, but he hadn't taken their most shots by like 100 or 200. It's not a deal where like Mason Jones shot a lot more times than anyone else. He's only shot it about 50 times more than Likely has. But they've got some other pretty good players. They got a kid named Avery Anderson that's just not bad. They got a kid that does a lot for them, kind of a jack of all trades, named Moncrief. Spelled different than Sidney Moncrief, so no relation. But they come in 10-4 and 4-4 in the Big 12. It'd be a good win for the Razorbacks.
Coach Matt Zimmerman joining us here on Halftime. Coach, I'm curious to kind of get your point of view on this with post this Oklahoma State game, and hopefully you can get the win here and keep this win streak going. But, Coach, the latter half of the schedule really sets up well for the Razorbacks with arguably your toughest games all inside Bud Walton Arena, and your road trips seem fairly manageable, and probably the toughest road trip you have left is going to Kentucky. But, Coach, if Arkansas handles its business and does well, the schedule sets up really well for Arkansas to finish off February and heading into the SEC tournament, one of the hottest teams in the conference and maybe even the country at some point.
Yeah, if you win out, which is possible to go 14-4. When you look at the schedule, there's not anybody on there, Matt, where you're like, I don't think we can get that. There's nobody. There's not. Now, if we lose a game, it wouldn't be a shock, and we've lost 4 ball games, but every game is winnable that the Razorbacks play out. You talk about the game tomorrow, that's a winnable basketball game. Won't be easy. If Cade Cunningham doesn't play, you got a better chance. But then whether he plays or not, you can win that game. You come home, we got 2 teams in the league that really, really struggle to score. What's Arkansas do the best? Score the basketball. And Mississippi State don't score it much, and Texas A&M is the bottom of the league in scoring the basketball. They're below Vandy. They're below Georgia. They're below all the lower scoring teams in the league, South Carolina. They just really struggle. And you got 2 games with A&M. And then, after that, you go, as you mentioned, at Kentucky, winnable game, a team that's struggling in the league, struggling overall, 5-10 record. And then you go to Missouri, that'll be a tough game. That'll be a tough basketball game. Won't be easy, but you can win that. And then, you got some other games there at the bottom. Florida coming in here, it's a home game. LSU, home game. Alabama, home game. Those are all games that the Razorbacks can win. I think Razorbacks will go 8-1 in the conference at home. And I'm not going to tell you what I don't know for sure what they're going to do on the road, but I think we've lost the only home game that we're going to lose this year. And that says a lot because you got LSU and Alabama coming in here. But the Razorbacks are playing well. You got 10 guys that can help the basketball team, and Justin Smith's back playing well. And I think Coach has got them going the right direction. Those 2 blowouts were not fun, embarrassing. You don't like it. But in the long run, it may be like with the women. Those losses motivate. They teach. They instruct. They motivate a team to get better. And the men have had those losses. It embarrassed them. And the women have had the 6 losses. And I think both of the programs are hitting a stretch in the schedule where they're fixing to chalk up a lot of wins.
When you look at this Oklahoma State game, and particularly the previous 3 games, it's really been key to watch, or really been cool to watch the reemergence, I guess, because we've seen it all throughout his career of Desi Sills. And Coach, it seems like when Desi Sills plays well, when he gets hot early and he's finding his shot, getting to the rim, it seems like the rest of the team rallies around him and really starts to play well. So how crucial is it, in your opinion, that Desi Sills continues this little hot streak that he's on and starts off the Oklahoma State game red hot and keeps this team moving?
Well, he obviously is very important. He did not play well in really any of the 4 losses. It started with the Missouri game here. Remember, he was missing all those shots around the basket, and then that continued on to Tennessee. And so he is, to me, the one guy. I mean, Moses Moody, lead scorer. J.D. Note, second lead scorer. Not that Desi's more important to them, but he's kind of the heart and soul. He's the fight. He's the energy. He's the effort. He's the guy dunking the basketball so hard with so much energy and compassion that he lands on his stomach. I mean, he is flying around. When he's playing like that, other teams don't want to mess with that. They don't like trying to match that energy and effort. They just don't want to try to do that. And he has not had that the whole season. He's had it for most of the time. But he has to continue to be the heart and soul, be the leader. He's played more games as a Razorback than anybody else, and he is a huge part of what's going on for Coach Musselman in this team. And he's a good player. He's a good kid. He wants to win, and you got to lean on him. And Moses is really, really good. But he's not going to be that as vocal. He's not been here as much. He's the guy, may get you 17 or 18. He might get you 25. But Desi's the heart and soul. And all these fifth-year guys, they got to continue to keep playing better. They have been. Jalen, Justin, Vance, a little bit off and on. Those guys are huge, huge, huge for what this team does. And Razorbacks got more depth. They'll have more depth tomorrow than Oklahoma State does. They have more depth than Mississippi State does. They got more depth than Texas A&M does. So have to use that to their advantage as well.
Hey, Matt, 4 years ago, we're in that arena. They honor the those that died in the plane crash. They're doing that again tomorrow on the 20th, a couple days past the 20th anniversary. And then they're honoring Eddie Sutton. Just something about that energy in that arena when they do that. How do you overcome that? I know it's not that big for players, but there is an energy in that arena when they do that. How do you overcome that? You've been on those sidelines when they've honored people before.
It's also a tough building to play in, just in the way that it's constructed.
They don't have success there. The crowd's not going to be what it has been when they played in there. But there is just an energy there. There was 4 years ago when they did that, and that could be a factor tomorrow.
Well, it's going to be, you're right. Is that Jason Carroll?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, hey, Jason. Good to hear your voice. You're right. I mean, we've been in there when that thing was packed to the brim, and we took a good team over there. Macon, Barford, those guys were good players, and went in there and got thumped pretty good. When that place gets to ripping and roaring, it is a very, very tough place to play. Ask Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, this year, they have not been able to do that with the COVID, and it's hurt them at home. They're 4-3 at home. I mean, TCU went in there and won. West Virginia went in there and won. Baylor went in there and won by 20. And so it is different for them. They've had a hard time holding that home court advantage. But when that place is going, it is as tough as any environment in the country. And you're right, the emotion that day, my gosh, the tragedy of the plane crash and remembering those poor, the poor souls that passed on that day. We've been there. We went there in Missouri, I think 2 or 3 times on Remember the 10 Saturday. And we went there in Arkansas on Remember the 10 Saturday. I remember Coach Anderson saying, it seems like every time we come here, it's the Remember the 10 Saturday. And that wasn't meant out of disrespect. It was just like, holy cow, they're bringing it. They're bringing it today. And then this Saturday is Remember the 10 without the crowd. And so it'll be interesting. And obviously it's an emotional time, and the connections with Coach Sutton and everything Oklahoma State had to go through. That changed the face of travel in college basketball. I know y'all probably got to go, but I think this is interesting. When I was in school here, 86, 90, we had the Hog Ball Air Force. Wayne Stellick would get you on 3 different little small planes, the school plane and usually a couple donor planes. And you would, there would be 8, 9 people on each plane, and 3 planes would fly. I was always on the slowest plane. Usually it was one pilot back then. And a lot of times I'd sit in the co-pilot seat as a student manager. We'd fly to Lubbock. We'd take off first. And by the time we got to Lubbock or Waco or Houston, the other 2 planes that took off after us were already there waiting on us. They're like, where have y'all been? They were just so much faster. And that's what happened. Oklahoma State traveled the same way the Razorbacks did, those 3 planes. And that one plane that, had, and the 3rd plane at Arkansas, the student managers, your radio people, your trainer, the couple of walk-ons, maybe a couple scholarship guys that don't play much, all those people were on that 3rd plane. It's just how it was. So you didn't put your star on the 3rd plane. And that 3rd plane is the one that went down. So sad. But I think about that all the time because I was on that plane for 4 years. And school said no more of that. We can't run that risk anymore. We've got to start chartering big planes and put the whole team on there. And always having 2 pilots. And I think they had 2 pilots when theirs went down. But a lot of times I was on many planes where there was 1 pilot. And it became a safer thing with these nicer, bigger charters. So
I had no idea about that was the moment that things changed, but it makes a lot of sense. Z, we do have to run. Again, thanks for hopping on today with us, and we'll be listening tomorrow, 2:30, when he and Chuck are on the call.
Thanks, Coach.
Did you get Chuck a happy birthday gift yet?
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me. I had
Is that today?
It's today. Yeah,
Are you kidding me? I had no idea.
Yeah.
All right, so we get to wish Chuck Barrett a happy birthday in the next segment.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Matt Zimmerman, good to have him on today. And, wow, I had no idea it's Chuck's birthday.
I'm not sure he wants a lot of people to probably know that. So,
well, unfortunately, we just did on a 4-station radio network.
Yeah.
You can blame Jason Carroll for that one.
Right.
Sorry, Chuck. Yeah, blame Jason. You get to sit next to him tomorrow for the remote broadcast. So, yeah, punch him on the shoulder then. 877-377-6963 to wrap up the show right after this.